Welcome to Threaded South. My name is Ashley, and in this tutorial you will learn how to create a retro basketball tee. Now, in one of my earlier videos I showed you how to make a vintage hip-hop tee featuring J. Cole, and if you haven't seen that one, I will link it somewhere on the screen. But in this one I will be using Iverson, and you will learn basically masking techniques and also how to make text that pops. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button so that you'll be notified every time I drop a video. Let's jump right in. As you can see here, I started a new document. The size of my document is 16 by 20 inches with a resolution of 300. So grab your type tool and type out the word Iverson. Change the color to white and the type to fatigue. Change the spacing to 0 and the size to 209 points. Change the vertical scale to 200%. Highlight the letter N and change it to 230%, and highlight the letter I and do the same as well. Change the warp to arc lower and change the bend to -34%. Duplicate this text and make the second layer invisible. But on the first layer, we're going to add some layer styles. First, let's start with bevel and emboss. Change this color to 090A0A and change the contour to the first one in the second row, and then select stroke and change the size to 24 pixels, and the color should be black. Add another stroke and change the size to 31 pixels, the position to outside, and the color should be white. Now select inner shadow, change the color to black, opacity should be 13%, the distance should be 85 pixels, choke should be 22%, the size should be 87 pixels. Select satin and change the color to black. Opacity should be 50%. The distance should be 65 pixels. The size should be 18 pixels. And the contour should be this one in the first row. And unchecked invert. Now we're going to apply a gradient overlay. Change the blend mode to multiply. And the angle should be 93 degrees. And now the color that we're going to use for the first stop is BA3D47. And then for the second stop, the color should be ED1E24. And click OK. Now we are going to show the second layer and change the size to 183. And change the color to black. Grab your text and just drag it down a little bit. And create a new layer above your second text layer, and I'm going to name it Black Fill. Here I will use my pen tool to fill in the open spaces to create 3D text. Now I am going to speed this up a bit. Right click, make a selection, make sure your feather radius is 0 and fill it with black. Now we're going to make another layer above it and name it shadow. And grab your pen tool. And here I'm just extending the shadow beyond the letter N and the letter I. Make a selection and grab your paintbrush tool, a very soft brush, and change the flow and then apply a very light shadow on the edge. Duplicate this and flip it horizontally and place it on the other side as well. Now type the word Allen and change the size to 80. And the vertical scale should be 60%. And change the font to Compound. And change the color to white. And the spacing should be 280. Place it in the middle. And now we're going to apply a gradient overlay. Change the opacity to 50%. And the gradient we will be using for the darker gray is DCD BD7. And for the lighter gray, we are going to actually use the color white. Now place all of these layers within a group except for your background color. And I am naming mine Allen Iverson. Now open the distressed texture and place a black and white adjustment layer on top. You can either convert it to a smart object or you can rasterize it. Because if you convert it to a smart object, you can go back and take away that black and white adjustment layer if you want. But of course, if you rasterize it, you can't go back into it. Bring it over into your document and place it on top of the words. And right click, create a clipping mask and change the layer to color burn. Now we're going to pop on over here to Illustrator and open up the halftone pattern. And I'm going to copy and paste it over into my Photoshop document. And I'm going to paste it as a smart object. And I'm going to rename it as well. And right click, create clipping mask. Open the basketball image. And make sure your foreground color is 9E1E01. And your background color is F97B00. Rename your layer and convert it to a smart object. Go up to Filter, Filter Gallery, and select Halftone Pattern. The size should be 5, the contrast should be 40, and the pattern type should be dot. And then click OK. And convert it to a smart object again. Use the pen tool to outline the basketball because we're going to mask away the court. Now bring the basketball over into your document and place it right in the center. Now we will double click and apply an inner shadow. Change the opacity to 38% and the color should be 0E0F0F. Change the distance to 11. The choke should be 0 and the size should be 202. Change the contour to the second one and click OK. Now open the cloud stock photo and apply a black and white adjustment layer and a invert adjustment layer. Now go to select subject so that it selects the cloud and create a mask. Select all 3 layers and merge layers. Rename it cloud. Now bring it over into your document. And resize it so that it looks similar to what I'm doing. And right click, create clipping mask, and change the layer to luminosity. Now add a brightness and contrast layer and create clipping mask and change the brightness to -150. And now select both the cloud and the contrast layer and place them within a group. And then name it cloud. And then make a selection from the mask of the basketball and mask out the cloud layer. And now change contrast to 71. Now open up the lightning layer and apply a black and white filter and convert it to a smart object, or you can merge the layers and bring it over into your document. Resize it so that it's right on top of the cloud. Place this layer outside of the cloud group and create a clipping mask and change this layer to hard light. Now open up the Iverson 1 photo and go to select subject. And now, as you can see, I'm gonna have to go in and clean it up with my pen tool and my selection tool. And I am speeding this part up. You can definitely pause if need be. And rename your layer and mask everything away. Convert it to a smart object like usual. And drag it on over into your document and resize it. Open Iverson number 2 and do the same thing as before. Renaming it, converting it to a smart object and selecting subject and using the pen tool to select or deselect areas that you do not want. And drag that image over into our document, resize it, of course. Now here what I'm doing is I'm taking a soft brush and I am going to mask away the bottom area. Rename it and convert it to a smart object. And select subject and use my pen tool to select and deselect the areas that are not needed. Bring it over into the document and resize it. Now here I'm making a selection from the basketball mask and going to select inverse and then masking away the lower part of Lou's body. And then also taking another soft brush and just fading it out a bit more. Double click this layer and now we're going to apply an outer glow. We're going to change the blend mode to linear dodge. And the color should be white. And the opacity should be 40%. And the size should be 109. And click OK. Now we're going to apply a brightness and contrast adjustment layer. And right click, create a clipping mask. Change the brightness to 34 and the contrast should be 55. Now grab your type tool and type out the answer at the top. Using the font Ryestock. And change the color to 68A5D9. Next, we're going to type out Philadelphia 76ers. And we're going to change the color to white. And the font will be Compound. And the size will be 50. And change the vertical scale to 61%. And the spacing will be 280. Now we're going to warp this text and change it to arc, and the bend will be -58%. And take it and place your text at the bottom of the basketball and arrange it like so. Now go down and find the Allen layer, and we're going to copy and paste this gradient overlay. Copy layer style and go back up to Philadelphia and paste layer style. Go back over to Illustrator and open up the star layer. And here I already have my star colored blue. Now I'm going to copy and paste it into my document and placing it on either side of Philadelphia 76ers. Now place your entire design within a group except for the background. And you can name this group Design. Now go back over to Illustrator and open the distressed halftone pattern and copy and paste it. And of course, resize it so that it fits over your entire design. Rename the layer. Right click, create clipping mask, and change this layer to multiply with an opacity of 12%. And that is how you create a retro sports tee. If you like what you saw today, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you want to grab some merch, head on over to threadedsouth.com. Thank you for watching.